Here's a mind blowing statistic: 78% of full time workers in America live paycheck to paycheck, and that number has actually increased among six figure earners in the past year. Today, we're exploring why most people stay trapped in poverty, even when they're making what should be good money.
That's such a counterintuitive finding. How can someone making six figures still be living paycheck to paycheck? There must be something deeper going on here.
Well, what's fascinating is that the research shows it's not just about income at all. I was looking at studies of lottery winners, and get this, nearly 70% of them end up broke within a few years. It's about patterns and programming that run much deeper than just dollars and cents.
So you're saying that even when people suddenly have access to wealth, they often can't maintain it because of these underlying patterns.
Exactly right. And here's where it gets really interesting. These patterns start forming when we're incredibly young. Research shows that most of our core beliefs about money are established by age 7, way before we can even understand what we're absorbing.
That early programming must be incredibly hard to overcome. What are some of the most damaging beliefs you've seen?
The biggest one I keep seeing is this idea that money is evil or that wealth automatically corrupts people. It's amazing how many times I hear people say things like, I don't want to be one of those greedy rich people, while simultaneously struggling to pay their bills.
That reminds me of something called cognitive dissonance, holding two contradictory beliefs at the same time. How do people start breaking free from these mental traps?
Well, the first step is becoming aware of your own money story. Start listening to the phrases you use about money, the automatic reactions you have to financial opportunities. Most people don't even realize they're operating on financial software that was installed when they were still watching Sesame Street.
You know what's really striking about this? The way these beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Oh man, exactly. If you believe rich people are bad, your subconscious mind will actually work to prevent you from becoming wealthy. It's like having an internal saboteur that's trying to protect your self image as a good person.
That's fascinating. So what's the next major trap you see people falling into?
The time for money trap. Let me share some numbers that really put this in perspective. If you work a traditional job for 40 years, putting in 40 hours a week, you'll spend roughly 80,000 hours of your life trading time for money. And here's the kicker: when you stop, the money stops too.
That's actually terrifying when you put it that way. What alternatives do successful people pursue?
Well, this is where we need to talk about assets and systems. The wealthy understand something crucial. The key isn't working more hours, it's building or acquiring assets that generate income without requiring your direct time and effort.
Could you give some specific examples of what that looks like in practice?
Think about someone who creates an online course. They might spend 100 hours creating it, but once it's done, it can generate income for years with minimal additional effort. Or consider someone who builds a portfolio of rental properties. Yes, there's some management involved, but the properties generate income whether the owner is actively working or not.
That makes me think about how technology has completely changed the game in terms of building these income generating systems.
You're absolutely right. Digital products, automated businesses, investment algorithms. The opportunities are endless. But here's where we hit another major trap: the fear of risk and change. Most people are so terrified of failure that they won't even explore these opportunities.
And that fear seems particularly paralyzing when it comes to financial decisions. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because we've been conditioned to see financial failure as a moral failure. When someone's business doesn't work out, what do people say? They should have known better. They were foolish. This social conditioning makes the fear of failure even more intense.
That's such an important point about how society reinforces these limiting beliefs.
And here's what makes it even worse: playing it safe is actually the riskiest thing you can do in today's economy. With current inflation rates and the rising cost of living, if you're not actively growing your wealth, you're going backward.
So how do people start moving past that comfort zone?
It starts with small calculated risks. Maybe it's investing a small percentage of your income in index funds. Maybe it's starting a side hustle while keeping your day job. The key is to build your risk tolerance like a muscle. You start small and gradually increase over time.
That brings up another interesting trap. this modern obsession with looking successful rather than actually building wealth.
Oh man, social media has made this so much worse. Everyone's trying to display the trappings of wealth, the luxury cars, the designer clothes, the exotic vacations. But here's the irony: most truly wealthy people are incredibly frugal in their personal lives.
That's something I've noticed too. Some of the wealthiest people I know drive modest cars and live in surprisingly modest homes.
Because they understand something fundamental. Every dollar spent on maintaining an image is a dollar that could be invested in building actual wealth. It's the difference between looking rich and being rich.
So, what would you say to someone who's feeling overwhelmed by all these traps they might be stuck in?
First, I'd say it's normal to feel overwhelmed. We're talking about changing deeply ingrained patterns of thinking and behavior. But here's the good news: awareness is the first step to change. Once you can see these traps, you can start avoiding them.
And I imagine it's important to remember that this is a journey, not an overnight transformation.
Exactly. Think of it like turning a large ship. It happens gradually, but once you start making these changes, the compound effect over time is incredible. Start with your mindset, then focus on building assets, then work on increasing your risk tolerance. The key is to make different choices today than you did yesterday, and to keep making those better choices consistently over time.
That's really powerful. The idea that we're not stuck with the financial patterns we inherited or learned early in life.
And that's really what it comes down to: understanding that your current financial situation is not your destiny. While the path to wealth isn't easy, it is simple. Question your assumptions, take calculated risks, build assets, and be willing to be different. The choice to change is always available. You just have to be brave enough to take it.